Hey, real quick, do you actually know the difference between recreational land and homestead land? Because a lot of buyers don't, and it ends up costing them. Welcome back to the Land Buyer's Guide. I'm Scott Thomas, a founder of landparker.com, where we help everyday people get onto rural land without breaking the bank. And today we're talking about something that comes up constantly, the difference between recreational land and homestead land. Because these two things sound pretty similar on the surface, but they are not the same. And if you're shopping for rural property with a specific vision in mind, understanding this distinction before you buy can save you a lot of time, a lot of money, and honestly, a lot of heartache. So let's just get into it. Recreational land. What is it exactly? It's property that's mainly used for leisure, hunting, fishing, hiking, camping, off-roading, maybe just having a private place to escape to on the weekends. Think of it as a getaway, a retreat. It's not really meant for full-time living or growing your own food. It's a place where you go to unplug, unwind, and enjoy the outdoors. This kind of land can be anywhere from a few wooded acres to several hundred acres of open countryside, and it tends to be pretty rugged. We're talking wooded terrain, wetlands, maybe some rocky hillsides, the kind of landscape that's beautiful to look at and fun to explore, but not necessarily easy to build on or farm. Now, recreational land usually doesn't have much infrastructure. Road access might only be seasonal, meaning you can get in during summer and fall, but good luck in the mud season or after a heavy snow. Utilities are often non-existent, and the zoning might be conservation or timber use, which can limit what you're actually allowed to do there. Here's the thing though, that's totally fine if your goal is recreation. In fact, those features are often what makes the land appealing for hunting or camping. And because recreational land lacks a lot of the infrastructure needed for full-time living, it tends to be more affordable per acre, which is a big deal for a lot of buyers. Okay, so then what is homestead land? Homestead land is property that's built or at least well suited for permanent living and self-sufficiency. We're talking growing your own food, raising animals, building a home, maybe going off-grid. It's land you can actually live on day in and day out through every season. And look, homesteading has made a real comeback over the last several years. More and more people want food security, sustainable living, some distance from the suburbs. That's a legitimate lifestyle choice, and I respect it a lot. But here's what a lot of people don't realize. True homesteading requires land that can actually support those goals. Not every piece of rural property can do that. So what does homestead land actually need? A few key things. First, the soil. You need arable soil, something you can actually grow food in. Nutrient-rich, workable, the right pH. Without that, you're not gardening. You're just digging in dirt. Water's huge too. You need a reliable, year-round water source. A spring, a stream that doesn't dry up in August. Water is non-negotiable for a homestead. And road access, you need to be able to get in and out of your property through all 4 seasons, not just in October when the weather's nice. Zoning matters a lot on homestead land as well. You need zoning that allows for residential structures and agricultural use. If you want chickens or goats or a couple of pigs, the county needs to be okay with that. And the terrain itself, you want enough flat or gently sloping land to actually put in gardens, maybe an orchard, pasture for animals. Steep, rocky hillsides aren't going to cut it for most of that. Now, homestead land typically costs more per acre than recreational land. That makes sense. It has more of what you need to actually live and work on it. But investing in the right land from the start can prevent some really painful surprises down the road. So why does this distinction matter so much? Because one of the most common mistakes I see buyers make is purchasing recreational land, thinking it can easily become a homestead. And sometimes it can, but often it really can't without a significant amount of effort and expense. Here's a scenario I've heard before. Someone finds this gorgeous wooded parcel, totally remote, great price, and they're picturing an off-grid cabin, a big garden, maybe some chickens, but then they dig into it and find out the soil is rocky and basically useless for growing anything. The terrain is too steep to build on without a major excavation project, and the only water source on the property dries up by midsummer. What they've got is a nice hunting spot, not a homestead. On the flip side, if all you want is a quiet weekend camping spot or a place to hunt a couple times a year, paying a premium for tillable farmland with a drilled well doesn't make a whole lot of financial sense either. You'd be overpaying for features you don't need. The point is, know what you want before you start shopping. It makes everything easier. All right, let me give you some practical things to think about depending on which direction you're going. If you're going the recreational route, take a look at seasonal road conditions before you commit. Some properties look totally accessible on a map, but are basically unreachable during wet seasons or winter. Worth knowing up front. Also look into deed restrictions or conservation easements. These can limit what kind of structures you're allowed to build, even something as simple as a hunting cabin. And if you think your plans might evolve over time, like maybe someday you'd want more of a permanent setup, it's worth asking whether a well or septic could even be installed on that parcel down the road. If you're looking at homestead land, soil testing is something worth thinking about before you close. Knowing the soil composition and pH can tell you a lot about what you can actually grow there. Water is the big one. If there's an existing well, try to find out the depth, the flow rate, and whether there's been any water quality testing done. And walk the land in person if you can, ideally more than once, in different seasons if possible. The way a property looks in late summer versus early spring can be pretty eye-opening. Zoning is worth a close look too. If you plan to keep livestock, make sure the county allows it. That's not always a given, even in rural areas. And don't overlook the septic situation. Installing a new septic system can be a significant expense that catches a lot of first-time buyers off guard. Now, can recreational land become a homestead someday? Yeah, sometimes. Some parcels have real potential with the right improvements. If the zoning allows it, if there's decent soil or at least the potential to improve it, if the water situation is workable, and if the terrain is buildable, it can happen. But the key is going in with a clear picture of what you're dealing with. Get a land survey. Research the zoning laws in that specific county. Talk to a local well driller about what's feasible on that property. The more information you gather before you buy, the better your decision is going to be. Here's the takeaway. Both types of land are great. Recreational land and homestead land each offer something really valuable. They're just aligned with different goals. And knowing which one matches your vision before you start looking is going to help you ask better questions, evaluate properties more confidently, and ultimately land on something that actually fits your life. Whether you want a private hunting retreat or you're dreaming about growing your own food and living off the grid, the right piece of land is out there. Just take your time, do the research, and don't be afraid to ask questions. That's what this show is here for. Thanks for listening to the Land Buyer's Guide. If you want to keep learning about rural land buying, or if you're ready to start browsing available properties, head over to landparker.com. We carry discounted rural land across the country, and we offer owner financing with options as low as $100 down and $100 a month. So if owning land has felt out of reach, it might be more doable than you think. Check it out at landparker.com, and we'll see you on the next episode.